Welcome to the Investor Coaching Show, a podcast to help you get an insider's view of the financial world and escape common investment traps. We look at the financial news of the day and help you make sense of it so you can relax about money. And here's your host, Paul Winkler.
Oh, man, 2023, what a year.
Yes.
I mean, it's just all these predictions about the stock market was just, it's going to be terrible, it's going to be awful. And that, the one article I was talking about that basically said, almost without exception, this one guy was talking about that people were thinking it was going to be a bad year, and it ended up not necessarily being such a terrible year.
Well, I don't know, Paul. If you got out of the market at the beginning of the year, it was a bad year.
It was a bad year for you. Yeah, good point. Yeah, very bad year. So, 4 ways to trick your brain into making better money decisions in 2024. Trick yourself into calling Paul Winkler.
Yeah.
Going to paulwinkler.com and set up a 15-minute...
Call Paul Winkler.
Yeah, there you go.
Leave the
That
dark
was
side.
shameless. That was shameless self-promotion. Can't believe we just did that. Oh, man. 4 ways to trick your brain into making better decisions 2024. Okay. What do you think, according to Fidelity Investments, the 3 most common financial New Year's resolutions are, guys? What are they?
I'm going to save more.
Yep, you got one.
Spend less.
Yeah, got 2.
Make more. Earn more. Find a better job.
Pay down debt.
Pay down debt.
There you go. Okay, that's pretty good, guys.
That's 3 out of 4. What's the 4th? Or was that the
No,
top
that was
3?
top
There were
3.
3.
Oh, okay.
Top 3. Okay, so those were the 3. Save more, pay down debt, and spend less. And I look at those things and it's
Who'd have thought?
it's simple, simple, easy.
Yeah.
Nah,
Doesn't take AI to figure that one out, does
no.
it?
Simple, but yeah, not easy, right? They said that our brains are fundamentally not wired to make decisions, the decisions that we're asking ourselves to make. This person, I love this. You know what she is? She is a what does she call herself? She's this was a professor at Wharton Business School saying this. There was somebody else further on that her job is she is a money psychologist is what she called herself.
A money psychologist?
Whatever.
Well, you have a PhD in psychology. So
No, I don't.
Master's.
Masters. Thank you.
Let me say, you could say that you're a money psychologist.
There you go.
Yeah, whatever. Our brains are fundamentally not wired to do this. You're asking a single individual to stand up against a whole host of organizations that are incentivized to get you to part with your money as quickly as possible. That's very true. One of the recommendations they said is to reschedule the timing of recurring bills. So they had all these different suggestions in the article. And one of them was, there it is, Abigail Sussman, Chicago Booth School of Business. We're very fond of the Chicago Booth School of Business around here. One of her recommendations is to reschedule the timing of recurring bills so that they're all due at the same time so you don't forget a bill that is supposed to come in. That was one. Okay, whatever. The second one was adjusting your finances takes time. So they said schedule it. My dad used to do this. I don't know about you guys. Did you guys have like a discipline in your household growing up where you had a certain day of the week where dad or mom sat down just with all of the bills and everything and the credit card statements and checking account and all that stuff right in one place?
Yes. My parents did it on a Friday. My dad was an electrician, and he got paid every Friday. And they would sit down with their legal pad.
Every Friday?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
And they would pay the bills for that week. So they had it broken down into 4 weeks and which bills were getting paid this week.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Evan, did you see the thing?
I don't remember the bill paying, to be honest. But what I remember is my dad had those yellow safety checks.
Yellow safety checks?
Oh, the kind of the old school, instead of blue, yellow check that just kind of had the yellow squiggle through it. No prints, no flags or dinosaurs or anything like that.
Okay, I gotcha. Uh-huh.
And, you used to get your canceled checks back in the mail.
Oh, my goodness. I had forgotten about that. Yeah, that is true.
I remember him getting his bank statement and getting those canceled checks and sitting at his desk and going through and checking it off his register of the ones that had cleared and so forth. That's what I remember. I don't
Younger
really
people, you just don't know what you missed.
I don't remember him paying bills, yeah. But I remember him reconciling his checkbook when that came in and that stack of yellow checks that he'd written.
Yeah, that is it. I had totally forgotten that. You used to get those canceled checks in the mail. I had totally forgotten about that. But yeah, certainly used to do that. And, balancing your checkbook was a big deal.
Yes.
You had to do that.
Right.
So they said you want to have a financial health day. So you go and put it on the calendar, set it up on the calendar, and every so often what you do is do that. And it reminds me of what you always said, that people spend more time planning their vacations than they do their finances. And, I think that's why it's so important. We're really big on, get back in. Every once in a while, get back in, check things up.
Yeah.
Just make sure that everything's going okay. Just questions that are needed to be answered, and you just never know when there might be something you ought to be doing that you don't even think that you ought to be doing because you didn't know a tax law changed.
Yes, yeah.
Is a really good example.
Or you could have hit some number that, previously you could deduct your IRA, or previously you could make a Roth contribution, and you just happen to cross some magic threshold in the tax code and you can't do it anymore, but you just have to pay attention to those things.
And you might want to look on little things like, they're talking about canceling subscriptions. How many of you going through your phone, go into your settings, I guess is where you go, and you can you look under there and you go, oh my goodness, how many subscriptions do I have?
Right. Yeah.
And things that I don't use anymore, or closing accounts that you don't use, or whatever, that they're charging you, so much per month or so much per quarter or per year or whatever. So if you have a whole day of financial chores feels overwhelming, then take 15 minutes a day. And, because a lot of times people aren't going to do it if it's going to take too long.
Yeah.
It's like anything. It's like organizing a room. You ever go in and organize a room and you're sitting there going, it's overwhelming. I can't do this. We'll just pick a corner.
Yeah.
How do you eat an elephant, right?
One bite at a time.
Yeah, just little stuff.
Cindy years ago had a organizer that she kind of followed. This was almost before podcasting, but this gal had an email newsletter when email was like you actually checked your email when something came in.
Yeah.
And she was called the Fly Lady. That was her nickname. And
I don't want to know why, but
she had this. Well, yeah, but she had this thing called a super fling boogie, was what she called it. And you just walk into a room, and you grab 5 things that just don't belong there, and you either threw them away or you put them where they were supposed to be or something. But that was her thing, was just walk in and just grab 5 things and get them out of there.
And that's really good, because that's one of the things, like if I'm doing counseling, I found somebody's overwhelmed with something.
Yeah.
And they just can't get themselves to get started. What I will do is say, okay, here's the deal. I want you to set a timer on your phone, for a certain time. Let's say that it's going to be 1:05 in the afternoon or whatever. And I want that timer to go off for 5 minutes. You're basically going to do that task for 5 minutes and no longer. And quite often what happens, you can guess it.
Yeah.
They get to 5 minutes and they keep going.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just getting started is the hardest part. It's, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's the hardest part for people. So I think that's really good advice, is just to do something, anything, even if it's 15 minutes a day, 5 minutes a day or whatever, just to get started and choose a corner of your room to do that, and then check off something off your to-do list. Another thing that they had was, one tactic is clear your saved credit card information from websites and apps, because if you have to re-enter the credit card and the information on it every time you make a purchase, it gives you a few more seconds to think about the purchase, which I think is an interesting
That's
point.
actually pretty good.
I thought it was really good, actually. Yeah.
Amazon would probably lose like $800 billion a year if people had to enter their card every time.
The Magnificent Seven would be like we were talking about down the tubes, right?
Man.
I mean, because how many times do we do things on impulse and then, it's credit card, you don't even think about it. But if you had to re-enter the credit card
Yep.
or pull cash out of your wallet or, go is often talked about, big difference. I thought that was a good point right there. Other factors or other favors you can do yourself while shopping online are installing an ad blocker so that tempting products don't follow you around the internet. I thought that was good too. Have you ever looked at something on Amazon and then it shows up and reminds you every 2 minutes that you're supposed to buy this thing?
Yeah. It's funny when I put on 99.7 on my computer, when I pull it up on the website and listen online.
Yeah.
The framing for 99.7 is either some search that I've recently done online, whether it's a vacation thing or a gun thing or whatever. It's there all the time. Advertising is just in your face.
Yeah, and of course they hear you talking.
Yeah,
and things will show up that.
Well, there was an article that was talking about how companies are actually having to come up with new ways to market because so much of the marketing was done during television.
So
yeah.
true.
And now, I know in my house, if we're watching a show that's on network television, it's recorded. And then we forward fast through commercials.
Right.
So a lot of the companies, they're
you're
kind
not even
of
seeing
aware
commercials.
of that,
Yeah.
that they're spending money that's not even being viewed. So they're really making a greater effort to find ways of marketing that are actually getting viewed. One of the things that they did talk about was the fact that there are a lot more billboards going up.
I was just going to mention that. Yeah.
Because people they're in their car. You can't drive by without seeing a billboard.
Get away from it. Yeah, that's a really good point.
So the ad thing on the internet, it drives me nuts, but
but that's part of, you look at what makes the world run and you got to get your message out there somehow.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's a free country. I mean, that's capitalism.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Well, Netflix is actually looking at a cheaper version of their streaming service with ads because they don't have ads. And I remember when Netflix first came out.
Interesting.
It was $5 a month for like 1 or 2 different DVDs. And they would send you an envelope, and I always wondered, how can they actually afford to do this?
Yeah.
They would mail you your movies, and you'd mail them back, and then you go online and you have your queue of all the movies you want to watch. So you return one, they send you the next one. There were no late fees or anything else.
I had forgotten about that.
Then they introduced streaming.
Yeah.
And it was the same. It went to like $7. And now you can get DVDs or stream. And then they split it. And now you can get a streaming service or the mail service.
Right.
And it was $5 each. So that was really, and I didn't think about it until just recently, that was really their way of saying, we're moving to streaming.
Sure.
Okay. And now the service is $20 a month.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
$20 a month for Netflix.
And I have a subscription. I don't ever watch anything. I need to cancel that.
Well, your kids probably watch.
My kids probably, go, what, Dad?
Yeah.
So one of the things in here they had talking about, you're restricting yourself from purchases. And sometimes what happens is we kind of get into have no more fun. Don't do anything. Don't spend anything.
Yeah.
Buy old junker, used cars. You can get really down to where you
Monk.
And I thought this is interesting because we've heard this before. How much do you spend on lattes every day? Right? You hear that kind of thing. Well, this guy is. Well, you're not going to become rich by not buying lattes. This guy says. He says, don't beat yourself up over these little things that might actually be important for your mental well-being. And I like this because here's what he said right here. He says, see how much money you have left each month after accounting for monthly bills, retirement contributions, emergency savings, and incoming savings goals. Then the fun part, spend the majority of the remainder on treats or anything you just feel like doing. And that's kind of how I've always lived. I've never been a real budgeter, which sounds funny from a financial planner, but I've never been a budgeter. I've always been that guy that just saves first, and then I could spend the rest on whatever I just feel like spending on. It's just kind of how I've always operated, because budgeting to me is, and I've got, a lot of you guys are like really good at it. And so, if somebody comes to me and asks, hey, can you give me some budgeting advice, Paul? And I go, no, I'll let you talk to Chad or Brian or Michael.
Jonathan's good at that.
Jonathan's really good at it. Yeah, he's really, really good at it. But
I don't know. I disagree with that guy a little bit, because I was sitting down with a 30-year-old man. His wife came in with their baby, and he was spending $150 a month on chewing tobacco.
Oh, my goodness.
And I had figured out that, if he just got like a 9% rate of return for the next 35 years, that would have been like $250.
But you're going to have to replace it with something else, though. Nature abhors a vacuum. What's he going to put in his place?
Well,
you got to think about that.
Maybe kiss his wife. I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm just saying. My whole point being, if you're trying to skip lattes to accumulate money for a down payment on a house in 2 years, forget that.
Right.
But if you're looking at the long-term compounded interest on a small investment. I remember when my sister, started as a hairdresser, and at 20, I said to her, and this is, this was when IRAs were $2,000 limits.
Oh gosh, that was like the very beginning, wasn't it?
Yeah, because she's just turning 54. But it was, if she was just able to get a 10% rate of return, put the $2,000, she would have had close to $1 million. Mm-hmm. So, what are we talking about? $150, $60 a month?
$1,800 a year.
But to his credit, what he said here is after you've done the savings and the retirement,
that's the key.
And after you've done that, then you can go out and do lattes.
That's
so he wasn't saying that, don't deprive yourself of that if you're not saving anything,
absolutely.
You're not doing anything, then maybe, that's a really good...
I save first, and then I buy my $2 lottery tickets. So.
Oh, gee. Ira, you're good at math. Come on, man.
Yeah, somebody has to win. Yeah, and if I buy a ticket, my odds are 50% that I'm going to win.
Hey guys, if you want specific advice for your unique situation, schedule a free 15-minute phone chat with one of our trusted advisors by going to paulwinkler.com/call. We don't sell any products, and our advisors don't make any commissions, so this isn't a sales call. We have a coaching process that helps you understand investing and relax about money. Don't put blind trust in anyone with your financial assets. We want to partner with you in the process so you know what you're doing and why. We manage assets on a fee-only basis, which means that when you do well, we do well, which aligns our interests with yours from the start. We also bring you into the financial planning process that gives you a clear plan so you can find the freedom to pursue your purpose. All our advisors are degreed planners too, with years of experience. So schedule a free 15-minute phone call with an advisor by going to paulwinkler.com/call. All right, back here on the Investor Coaching Show, Paul Winkler. That's interesting. I hadn't heard that. Nick, dropping some stuff on us here.
There you go.
Where was that, Nick?
It was over the news. I think it was earlier this year, or maybe it was last year, but it was Elon Musk. It was something about feeding all the starving kids and poverty and everything around the world, and somebody's like, it would cost this much, it's like $6.6 billion or something to fix that. And they were like, Elon's like, I'll pay it, but you have to show me where that money's going to. You have to keep track of everything. It has to be all public. And the people that were saying that they would do it they wouldn't give him the information because they were just going to use that money for their selfish reasons. So he never ended up handing over that billions of dollars.
So when I was an echo major in college, I actually had a project that I did, and that's what I did is Ethiopia. And the project that I did for my big paper was on Ethiopia and the starving people, starvation issues, and all of that stuff. And that was exactly it. It was the government was just taking the money. I mean, the research that I had to do that paper was unreal, but I learned a whole lot about corruption and government interference and things like that. So I don't doubt that. Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
Fascinating. All right, Devin.
Well, two things. One, just a quick plug, because this article comes from Navy Sun. Mm-hmm. And when we were kind of looking at just different topics.
Great article. Yes.
And so anyway, he put an article in the Boston Globe on how to, just the fact that you need to hang around people.
Give them the title of the article.
What thermodynamics can teach. I don't even have it pulled up. What thermodynamics can teach you about relationships or getting along.
It was basically on politics was the whole thing. Yeah, it was really, really well done.
And when we were going through the article, and he had been going back with the editor and stuff, so we started talking about just, the academic process, and we started talking about dating, of all things, in this conversation. And this actually comes out of the University of Chicago as well. Mm-hmm. But study says 5'6" men need to earn $175,000 more a year to be as desirable as 6-foot men. And so with this proliferation of online dating services,
Randy Newman, short people,
the various, Tinder, Hinge, eHarmony, whatever, Farmers of America or whatever, they have a lot of data now because all of this is online, and they're starting to study what causes people to, swipe left and swipe right or click or whatever to make a match. And the study shows that on average, men who are 5 feet 6 inches need to make an additional $175,000 annually to be as desirable as men who are almost 6 feet.
Ouch.
The number increases with shorter heights. With men who are 5 feet, for example, they need to make an additional $317,000 in income. The numbers didn't factor in race or anything like that, and the numbers do change when they consider the ethnic background. But basically, if you start at kind of a baseline of 6 feet, if you're only 5'10", which is me, I need to make an extra $24,000 to be as desirable as a 6-footer. If you're 5'8", an extra $138,000, and it just keeps going from there. If you're 6'10", you can afford to lose $63,000 of income and still be as desirable as a 6-footer as far as the online dating apps are.
I'm just going to say this publicly. I was dead broke when she met me, and we got married. Yeah. And we got married the first year. I think my income was less than $20,000, and she still married me.
Well, yeah. Now this is $2023, by the way. I mean, when we got married, $20,000 was decent income.
No, it was not. No,
okay.
Yeah, it was pretty pathetic.
Okay. Well,
because my income dropped.
My first pay was $568 a month in the Marine Corps, so I mean, to me, $20,000 was a big number. But
oh well, you got your room and board covered. Though.
But there's all these stats that are now coming out on what causes people to be desirable on these dating sites, and the sociologists are looking at it. He was talking to some classmates at Harvard, that are looking at studying some of these things.
Shoes,
it's really interesting. Yeah, maybe that's why DeSantis wears lifts in his boots. I don't know.
And what about women? What's their height and money ratio?
Actually, so I wasn't going to get into that.
Yeah, I wasn't going to get into that. We just backed him into a corner.
Women on the dating.
We're going to find out during the break.
The women on the dating thing, it actually wasn't height. It was another physical demographic.
Okay. All right. See, Ira, you backed him in a corner. Way to go. So that is fascinating, though. That is fascinating. You know what that kind of reminds me of? There was a Jackson Browne song, and Rosie, and he has this little line in there. He was talking about, so it's not who you look like. It's who you look like, not who you are. You ought to keep that in mind. He has that little line in there. It's a great line in a song, and he's just because he was talking about how the sound man for the band, was bringing in this girl to help her out. She was forlorn, kind of lost and all of that, and she didn't know where she didn't fit in any place. So he just brought her up to, watch him do the sound for the band. Yeah. And then, of course, it was, but so often, yeah, it is. It's sad that we do look at that outward appearance and judge somebody by that.
Yes, for sure. And if you want an extra topic of what happened this year, the writers and actors strike. Oh, we haven't really heard much about it. Once it ended, it just kind of vanished from the
Well, I didn't miss anything because being a person that doesn't watch movies, did they slow down in the movies?
Well, several, I think, got rescheduled. There was some show that we were, I guess, following and was supposed to be released in 2024. And because of the strike, like the filming had to be done at a certain time of year, either because of the sun or the weather or something like that. Well, they missed that window, and so they're going to have to put the project off for an entire year because, the sun's not going to be in this place till next year. I mean, they're putting all kinds of things off.
Who would have thought about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that wouldn't have crossed my mind. Hey, this is Paul Winkler. Hope you enjoyed today's edition of the Investor Coaching Show. You want to learn more about what we do, go to our website, paulwinkler.com. You can watch some of the videos there, and if you're not already a client, you can set up a free initial consultation. Until next time, I'm Paul Winkler, reminding you that I believe that more educated investors are more confident investors, and confident investors are more successful investors. Have a great one. Advisory services offered through Paul Winkler, Inc., an SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions voiced and information provided in this material are for general informational purposes only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine what investments are appropriate for you, please consult with a financial advisor. Paul Winkler, Inc. does not provide tax or legal advice. Please consult your tax or legal advisor regarding your particular situation.